before the fireworks of the 4th of July went off, before the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident," were ever put on paper, before we even had a thought of becoming a nation. Right here in Virginia, independence was to be declared. This was the start of everything. And a man by the name of Madison sat in the middle of it all right here, May 15th, 1776, as he watched, listened, and learned as liberty for the nation would begin. This truly was the Declaration of Independence. And really what it was a rebellion. Today we're going to bring you here to Williamsburg and up to Montpelier. We're going to tell you about James Madison and the true story of the Declaration of Independence. Between 1774 and 1776, the leaders here in Virginia decided that they were going to meet in a series of conventions, not once, not twice, but 5 separate occasions. And what they were discussing was something that was going to be considered treasonous. It was something that was going to be considered a rebellion. They could get them killed, essentially, because they wanted to separate and be free and independent from the crown. They wanted to be their own country. They were tired of being represented by a government that was not representing them, that was not providing anything of substance here in the colonies. The 5th convention here in Virginia, in Williamsburg, would be the most important. By May of 1776, one question lingered the most right here in these halls. Should we break away from Britain completely? That was the thing that they gathered to do here at this 5th convention, is figure it out. They were having a vote on it. And one very important step to this happened right here, where the House of Burgesses met for the last time and quietly died in these chambers here in Williamsburg. It was a symbolic act. It was the moment that they were going to break away. And there was only one dissenter in the entire group for independence. As the House of Burgesses dies here in these chambers, something new takes its place. It's a government that's born by the people. It's raised up and elected by the people. These representatives that are here are sent here by the people in the state of Virginia. They're here for one purpose, and that is to determine the future and the outcome of what is to come here in the state of Virginia. It would end up rippling throughout history, and it would take hold here in Virginia only before it makes its way to Philadelphia. These people are about to determine the fate of future generations, the fate of democracy here in the United States. The one dissenting voice here is Robert Nicholas Carter. He doesn't want anything to do with this, really. He calls it treason, and he's afraid of what the outcome is. Most of the delegates are sent here from the counties as the voice for independence. And as they come here, they start to realize there's more at stake than just an idea. Some are afraid of war. Others want to wait till France comes in and helps them out. But as James Madison put it, the time for independence is now. He knew this was the moment to grab it. And if they didn't do something about it now, they were going to have to hang on forever. By May 15th, it was considered unanimous, and they were going to send their delegate up to Philadelphia and basically propose a Declaration of Independence. And they end up sending their delegate, Mr. Lee, up to Philadelphia. June 7th, Richard Henry Lee brings with him the instructions that he needs in order to make the proposal that the colony should be absolved of any union with the crown. With that proposal being brought to the floor in Philadelphia, it becomes clear what has to happen next. And eventually what we have is the Declaration of Independence. Realistically, you could say it doesn't take place without what happens here in Williamsburg. And also, Mr. Madison is in the middle of it all as he's watching George Mason write down documents that he would later use as inspiration for things such as the Bill of Rights. On July 2nd, Congress adopts that proposal, and by July 4th it was declared the Declaration of Independence. History would have you believe it all happened in Philadelphia. The truth is it happened right here in Williamsburg, and it made its way to Philadelphia. But they didn't just stop with that proposal. They created their own constitution here in Virginia and their own version of a Bill of Rights. And that is really what took place here. And there was a journal that was written about everything that happened there in that building and here in Virginia. That journal would somehow make its way into Civil War history. So at this time, we kind of have to realize that the royal governor is gone. He's no longer a part of the picture here. And Virginia is kind of ruling itself. That's really what leads to a lot of this stuff. These guys have the freedom to roam and the freedom to talk. And a lot took place right here in this area where the royal governor's palace was. Now that we've talked about that 5th convention here, we're going to head on over to Montpelier, where Mr. Beat is, and we're going to do a little work over there and work on the story about James Madison himself, tour the house, and see what that man was all about. Because after all, he was really the father of that Constitution that we're talking about. He pulled together all the ideas that would become the document that people would pull from for generations. Well, I'm not on the Civil War trails today. I am actually in Montpelier, and I'm out here with Mr. Beat and family. He's selected this location to do a video coming up, and I'm basically getting behind the scenes of what he does and how he puts together his work, and just hanging out, having a good time. You may or may not be able to see it in the background, but behind those flowers over there is Mr. Beat. He's a YouTuber, mostly of political history and political sciences, and he's talking about James Madison today. He's invited me to come out here with him and just kind of hang out and talk history a little bit, since it's kind of my thing too, and checking out what he does when he films and creates his videos. a little man born in Virginia, standing at 5'4", weighing about 100 pounds, would go on to father something so instrumental that it would stand the test of time and change a nation forever. Today, we're at Montpelier. We're going to talk about that man.
Sun is on half your face if you're good at that.
Okay.
Oh, that looks bad.
Okay, you ready? You ready?
Wait. Hold on, wait.
Ready?
Oh, no.
Oh, makeup.
That's better. Okay.
Okay. The dude was shy, hated crowds.
So I'm out here today with Matt Beat from Mr. Beat, and we're basically out in Montpelier just kind of checking out Madison's home and seeing what it's all about. He's got a couple videos coming up here pretty soon on the Founding Fathers, and I'm walking along with him just trying to see how he goes through his process and understand better how his videos are created. It's a really neat thing to see. Matt,
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me. He's a local too, so he's filling me in on a lot of stuff that I would not know otherwise.
Yeah, it's a good time. This garden here is real pretty. It's a beautiful place out here in Montpelier. The DuPont garden, of course, which was the family that owned the house after the Madisons vacated the property via natural selection, I guess you could say. But yeah, we're out here just checking out the grounds, and I don't know about you, but to me, it's just something amazing to be able to walk in the area of somebody with such a great mind.
A genius, definitely the smartest founding father in my opinion, even smarter than Jefferson, although that's debatable.
Yeah, for sure. And he's always been compared to people like that. But as far as history is concerned, one of my biggest problems with it is he's kind of in the background. He's someone that people don't talk about that much.
Absolutely, and part of it was because he was kind of a quiet guy. He did speak in front of people. He didn't like doing it, but when he did speak, people paid attention. He was greatly respected by his peers, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I guess really in the end, that's what counts. And the fact that he fathered and helped create that Constitution that we have, I mean, that really is Americanism at its best.
Yep. He was the father of all of us in that way.
It's true.
Instead, he realized it'd be better to serve the war efforts writing laws. Instead, he realized he'd be better served to help the war effort. No, he'd better serve the war effort. Instead, he realized he'd better serve the war effort by writing laws. Instead, he realized gosh, I'm struggling here. It's the pressure. Instead, he realized he'd better serve the war effort by writing laws.
Jimmy Madison, 4th President of the United States, was nicknamed Jimmy, and he liked that nickname. He was a short man, about 5'4", and he was born here in Virginia. And he was a sickly kid, is the way he was described. Had stomach ailments and issues when he was a younger boy. And eventually, he would grow up, become a teenager, and get sent away to a boarding school for education. At this educational facility, he would learn many different things, including Latin, and start his course down philosophy's road. And philosophy he would later go on to call common sense with larger words, or more complicated words. Jimmy Madison had a unique way of looking at things. And I think that's why he was such a smart man. He had a very, very good way about him when it came to being inquisitive and learning. And that's what started his career, really, here in the colonies. Jimmy comes back home. He's about 15, 16 years old, and he makes it back here. And at the time, I believe the name of the place was called Mount Pleasant instead of Montpelier. And when he makes his way back home, he goes to college, and they send him off to, I believe it's New Jersey College, which eventually would be called Princeton. And while he is in Princeton, he studies many different things there too, just like he did at the other location, and philosophy becomes a big part of it. He returns from there, although he could have gone to William and Mary just like Thomas Jefferson, but he decides to go to that college particularly. And when he returns with a belly full of fire and an inquisitive nature about himself, about why it is that a government can control your religion. Fast forward a little bit, Jimmy Madison is now a grown man, and he is in politics, and he is working his way up the chain, if you will, and he finds himself in a room with some very prominent people, and instead of speaking his mind and talking, he decides he's going to sit back and listen. He was described as a person that would spend time on the sides of the room and in the back of the room, and not necessarily in the middle or the front of the room in the beginning, because he didn't feel like it was his place, and he didn't think that he was the smartest man in the room at that time. So he would learn, he would study, he would grow before speaking, which was one of the most unique features about this man. A lot of politicians love to speak first and then deal with the consequences later. That was not Jimmy Madison. Now, for a man that's so concerned with liberties, civil liberties, and things of the political nature, I guess, he was a man who also enslaved more than 100 people on a plantation that he inherited, which was 4,000 acres of a tobacco farm. Today, 4,000 acre tobacco farm will probably make you a very wealthy person. And for a time, Jimmy Madison had more money and more property than he knew what to do with. Eventually, he would leave the White House an extremely broke person. So broke, in fact, that he was afraid to sell his notes from when he helped create the Constitution, because he wanted to have something to leave behind for his wife Dolley in the event of his death, so that she wouldn't be broke and penniless. It's amazing to think that a man with that much property, that much potential to earn money, somehow ended up wasting it away and being broke. Try to get this video where you can actually see me better instead of having the sun blasting you in the eyeballs. Just a minute ago, I was over there talking to archaeologists about what they were finding out there at the supposed Revolutionary War blacksmith shop. They found a bullet mold out there, potentially with the same caliber of rifles that would have been used during the American Revolution. They suspect that that area was also quarters for the more skilled labor on this property. At least that's what they told me. When they say skilled labor, that's code word for skilled enslaved persons on this property. So it was really neat to see that. It was also neat to see the piece of pottery that was found there and what they thought might have been one of the living quarters for those people. Right now, we are headed towards Mr. Madison's family cemetery, which, if you want to see that for yourself while you're out here, you have to go from the visitor center, which is directly behind me here, and you have to walk past the parking lot where you're parking down a trail that takes you straight out there. Also, in these fields is a location where a lot of the enslaved people were buried as well. We're going to go see if any of those graves were marked. As we were trying to say before, Madison, being the genius mind that he is, he was trying to draft up this Constitution. He was trying to come up with the idea for what this is supposed to be. And in his mind, one of his central and foremost thoughts was about religion. His idea about religion was revolutionary for the time. at that time, in colonial days, if you went to church, which you shall go to church according to their governmental laws, their king and queen's law, you will go to the king's church, no other church. If you don't go to church, you will be fined heavily and possibly sent to jail. So imagine that today. You decide Sunday you're not going to go to church. Somebody knocks on your door come Monday morning or possibly Sunday afternoon, put cuffs on you and drags your butt down to jail and says you're going to sit here for a week, maybe a month. In Jamestown and Williamsburg, it could be up to 3 months waiting on a judge to come out there and rule on your case. That wouldn't fly today. And for James Madison, that wasn't going to fly for him. He saw that as an overreach of the government reaching into a person's private life and dictating what it was that they should believe. He did not want that to happen. And a lot of people in America felt that way. A lot of people in the United States, when it was a colony and it wasn't the United States, a lot of people came here because of religious persecution, not just seeking fortune. So he was revolutionary in that idea. And for someone to speak out and say stuff like that, it could have been the end of his life. So Madison's got a big job to do, and he knows he needs to prepare. He's not the originator of a republic. He's not the originator of the idea of democracy. He wants to pick and pull from many different types of governments that he sees has great ideas and works best for people. Because the idea is this is a government that works for the people and is controlled by the people. So he studies. He digs up every piece of information that he can on governments that he thinks works well. And he even studies the ones that do not work well. And he picks and pulls from all of it. Eventually, what they come up with is this Constitution. Now, there's no Amazon, no social media back in those days, or Facebook or any of that. So in order for him to get that information out, he's going to have to send that out with the delegates, and they're going to have to go back to their states, to their constituents, and they're going to have to plead this information before the people and see if they're willing to write off on it, essentially. And when it returns, it only returns with 19 amendments. Eventually, they whittle those 19 amendments down to the amendments that we have today, the core amendments that we have today, the ones that most people think of as, religious freedom, the freedom of speech, and things like that. And those core amendments were all that they ended up drafting a change to this Constitution. The purpose and the reason behind that is when he decided to come up with the information that he had, he wanted to create something universal for all, something that everybody could get on board with, because they needed to do this quickly. We're talking about a country that was teetering on the edge of self-destruction at that time because they felt it wasn't going to last. The whole world was pulling for the United States to fail. But that's how he fathered this Constitution. And still today, the Constitution is standing strong, although there are additional amendments which need to be there, and people still continue to fight about it. People pull from that Constitution all the time to make their point. Nice sunny day out here today. As you can tell by the ladder behind me there, it looks like they're doing some renovations out here on some of the pieces of the property. Matt's up on the hill there, and he's doing the next part of his segment that he's going to put in his video. Me, I'm just kind of roaming around and checking out the history myself, because when I go to these places, I'm not a videographer or an expert on creating videos. I just like to capture the historical places I go to and talk about it. here on this channel. So to me, the thing that latches on and catches me when I walk out here to this field is the closeness of these enslaved quarters and stables to the actual mansion up on the hill. These are examples, and I'm not sure 100% that they were in this place, and they probably were, some of them. But every day when an enslaved person on Montpelier wakes up and goes out to do the back-breaking labor that they have to do, that large mansion right back there is what they wake up and see. They know that the boss lives in that house, and they're not getting paid for their labor. They are not getting a choice as to what they can and cannot do. They are out here working in the sun, in the heat, in the rain, in the snow, cold, hot, indifferent, and they're doing it without a paycheck, without a choice. That really is the thing that I focus on when I talk to people about enslaved people. Now, none of us today knows anything about it or what it was like, but we have things that were written. We have accounts of the way people were treated and what that life was like. Even in Ken Burns' documentary, there was a man that was recorded talking about the way he felt about himself as an enslaved person, and it was an actual former enslaved person saying that he would rather die than to go back to that life, because to him you were nothing more than a dog. Just think about that. Those are the things I think about when I walk around places like these. A great mind lived in that house, and he helped build the Constitution that would eventually be the building block of this country and turn this thing, this experiment, into a beacon of hope for the world. But at the very beginning of it, that beacon of hope had a lot of people in it that were here not by choice.
So this is one of the biggest pieces we found in this unit. When we flip it over, once it actually does come out, the back of it will most likely look more like this.
Yeah, he found one there too.
It's really green.
Okay.
It looks like it's coming.
Yeah, it's definitely green. Yeah.
Just the thing I can't get over is the fact that one guy that studies time capsules estimated at least 95% of all time capsules are forgotten or misplaced within 5 years of being buried.
That's crazy.
And like, what does that say about the entire profession of history? You know, like when we complain about people today, like don't you don't you remember we did this in the past and it didn't work? Don't
Yeah.
you remember? Of course they don't remember.
Right.
They don't even remember what happened last week, you know. And I guess that's why, like, it's been particularly frustrating for me, like coming from, you know, I was in the classroom for 12 years and I saw firsthand, like, social studies was pushed to the back burner in my state. Like, all the funding, all the initiatives were towards STEM.
Yeah.
And we would have a week of testing. They'd test for reading and science and math, and they chose the time of the day to have the kids test during social studies classes. And that, I think, was symbolic of the entire problem. Like, we have a whole generation, maybe 2 generations, that they don't really, unless you're like history dorks like us who like get into this stuff anyways.
Yeah.
They were never taught it.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
So as we walk away from Matt Beat, working back here in front of the house, getting prepared for his video, I'm going to head towards Madison's grave, his family cemetery. And off to the side of there is also a location marked as the cemetery of the enslaved people for this property here too. Madison, like we were talking about earlier, being the father of the Constitution, knew he had to prepare for it. So right before he goes into helping draft this initial draft of the Constitution, he sits down and he studies like crazy. He studies and studies and studies other governments. Well, here we are. We've made it inside the cemetery. Cemetery of Legends. James Madison. Dolley Madison. You can't get any bigger than that. It's pretty neat to see. James was the last of the founding fathers to be alive. And his wife was a really big, important part of his life. And though he married late, he always kept her involved. And she was realistically what was considered the first lady, considering the lavish dinner parties and things like that that she held at that time. And a lot of people based their first ladyship, if you will, off of the way she handled things. She was a very strong woman, and certainly someone that he looked to for comfort and for guidance. These were a very important couple here, and not to mention James Madison taking on the responsibility of being a father of a young man that was not his birth son. That says something about the man himself too.
And you want me to start recording?
Go ahead.
Action. You want me to watch the camera?
Sure. Just make sure I'm not getting dark.
Okay. Oh, you're kind of.
She's recording right there. Watch out, Liddy. Watch out, you're blocking. Come over on this side, or over there.
Here.
I can't believe he was president. I can't believe he was president. James Madison, I mean. I can't believe he was president.
So how exactly does all of this tie into the American Civil War? Well, they kept a journal of everything that happened here, and that journal was cataloged and held here in Williamsburg for a long time. Eventually, the journal would be brought to Richmond, Virginia. During the American Civil War, everything was safe while the Confederates were in charge of and holding Richmond until the war was over. Then the Union Army was in charge of Richmond. Union soldiers that were garrisoned there to take care of the town and keep the rebellion down actually went into the Capitol building and where they kept all of their papers and historical documents, and they stole a lot of things that were in there. One Union soldier ended up stealing this diary, this journal, if you will, of what happened here in Williamsburg, and he brought it home to his family as a keepsake. Many, many years later, 1942, a descendant of his family takes this document to a rare books dealer in Philadelphia, of all places, and sells it to the rare books dealer. Then, that family, having it passed to this man, the man decides he's going to take Colonial Williamsburg for a ride. And he brings the journal here to Williamsburg, and he tries to sell it to the foundation, who then immediately contacts the state, and the state makes things right. They pay the man back the money that he actually paid for it, even though they didn't have to, and they confiscated the journal, which is now in Richmond, Virginia. our country has one amazing story. Going from Williamsburg to Montpelier and back, and checking out those historic places and being in those places with people that appreciate it just as much as I do is always a treat. Williamsburg, it definitely deserves more attention than what it's gotten in the past, especially now, today. History has a funny way of writing itself in different ways through generations. Over time, it seems that history rewrote the story of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and how the American Revolution started. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that 5th convention in this video so that we could kind of set the record straight a little bit. The American Revolution really started there in Williamsburg, Virginia. And it's a pretty amazing story to think about, that those men, at the risk of their own lives, would come together at those conventions and start something that really, I don't know, many people at their time would have the nerve to do it. Well, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm glad you guys came along to watch this video and see where we've been. I'm looking forward to more videos in the future, connecting with some more of these YouTube creators out there, and putting some more content out real soon. Until next time, this is History with Waffles.